Hey everybody, welcome back to I Know a Guy. I'm Anthony, and this is the podcast where connections thrive. Each episode, we spotlight inspiring entrepreneurs, professionals, and individuals doing amazing things. Together, we'll grow your circle, spark collaborations, and discover new opportunities. Today, we're meeting Wendy Alexander, an inspiring interviewer and career coach who empowers midlife women to break free from limiting narratives and claim the careers they've always dreamed of. From overcoming immense personal challenges to transforming her life, Wendy now helps her clients confidently land their dream jobs, negotiate the income they deserve, and create a lifestyle they truly want. How you doing today, Wendy?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. I know there's a sickness going around and you can hear it in my voice. I'm almost out of it, but just ignore me. I'm here to ask questions and then let you do most of the talking. So that's a good thing. So yeah, no, I was reading up about you. You're doing some awesome things, and I think there's people out there that definitely need to hear your story. Would definitely benefit from getting to know you a little bit. So to start off, where are you located? Where are you calling in from?
So I'm located down under, as they call it, Melbourne, Australia. Yeah, where the kangaroos are loved.
I got you. Are you a lifer? You been there forever, or are you newer to Australia?
So, no, I grew up in South Africa, in Cape Town, South Africa, and migrated to Melbourne when I was about 20, just probably a month shy of my 21st birthday. So I did a lot of my formative years in Cape Town. That was its challenge, had its challenges, right? If anybody knows about the history of South Africa, they know there was segregation, apartheid, all those things. And then migrated with the family at the age of 21 and have been here since. Though I did live in the US twice in my life. I lived in California for a couple of years, probably about 27, 28 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, and then lived again in New York City for about 9 months in 2016. Yeah, so I know the US well.
I got you. Well, you know the edges, the middle where I'm at, it's all meh.
That's right. I don't know the middle. Let me not say I know the US well, because I don't know the middle. I haven't been, but I'd like to go.
Yeah. So people that have never been to Australia or Melbourne and being more specific, let's say you have friends coming into town. Where are you taking them? What are you doing? And what are you guys doing for dinner?
Okay, so Melbourne is the multicultural city of Australia, and it is the place where you have the best food. So we have that melting pot of culinary tastes, as they say. If you want good Italian, good Greek, good, what else do we do? Oh, all the good Asian food. So the Thai, Chinese, Malaysian, Melbourne's the place to come. And if someone lands here, I suppose one of the first things I would do with them is take them to a football game. And we're talking Aussie rules football, not gridiron, right? I'm a bit nuts about the footy. So that's what we call it, yeah, footy. That's what they call it in Australia. But the season hasn't started yet. It starts in March and goes from March till about September. Yeah, so it's a winter sport because currently we're in summer. Then there's beautiful buildings and art places in Melbourne. It's a very cultural city. Japanese is probably where I take them for dinner. We got some good Japanese restaurants here.
That all sounds good. So sounds like you
Yeah,
can't really
yeah.
miss, right? You throw a dart, you're gonna hit something good. So awesome. What can you tell us about what you do?
So I am a career coach, an interview coach, also resume writer, write LinkedIn profiles for people. So all in the career space. And it's a lot about career transition is where I focus on. For a long time, it was kind of everybody, graduates wanting to transition into really good jobs. So I would help position them. And then mid-level careerists or people wanting to change careers. But I've zoned in more now on women, midlife women, because I went through a particularly difficult time with that midlife time and menopause and all the changes of the body and the brain fog and everything that comes with that. And so I found that I was quite dissatisfied in my career. I was doing well. I had climbed the corporate ladder. I was making really good money, but I couldn't find any kind of real purpose or connection to the career anymore. But I had started this side business, which was career coaching, because I actually had to pick myself up by the bootstraps when my relationship broke down and I was left pregnant and alone, lost my house, all of these kinds of things. So I started to look for ways to make more money. That's where it started for me. And then I found systems, or I started to talk to recruiters and hiring people, pick their brains, got their systems, how do I improve my career prospects? And catapulted myself probably within 8 months from the rock bottom, what I call the rock bottom of my life, catapulted myself through rewriting my resumes, talking to people, picking their brains, and landed a role that, really increased my income by a significant amount. And so that's where it started for me. But I wanted to succeed in corporate as well. So I was full-time in corporate and did my business part-time. But then when midlife hit, that was when I made the change. And I was like, I need to go do something that I really want to do, something that's going to make me jump out of bed in the morning, that's going to pay well, and that's going to help others. That was kind of my factors driving the decision. And left corporate in 2018 and have been full-time in the business now doing career coaching. Probably the biggest seller of the work that I do is the interview coaching, because look, today there's AI, there's this, that, and the other that can help people write their resumes. Although I will say, very good hiring people can pick when your resume is AI written. And I've had a bunch of clients come back saying, my resume was rejected. They told me they could tell it was written by AI and they didn't like that. And so I always say to people, use AI for your ideas or how you want to structure something, but try and write your resume yourself or get a good writer to help you write your resume. So they speak in your language. It's not all this AI-driven language. But that's where it started for me. And so now what I do with midlife women is help them transition. There's a lot of women that go through incredible stress through that time. Their body's changing, hormones are going all over the place. Sleep is often a real issue. And so what women don't need and what many of them don't want is stressful careers. So they start to then look at ways that they can transition into less stressful careers or into a career that brings them joy, that's maybe more about what they believe in, more about, the passions that they've held for years but never pursued. Because, we often settle, we do, all of us have to pay bills. We have mortgages, we have rent, for those of us who rent, we have, school fees and all the things. And so sometimes we're forced to settle into a job or a role that we may not like, but it helps pay the bills. And I try to help people use their skills, their experience, their talents, their natural talents to go and find the career that also pays well, but that's probably more aligned to the things that they love.
Okay. Are you helping them discover that, or are you just helping them get the job? Like they come to you already knowing what they want to do? Or are you kind of helping them through the process, trying to figure out what it is that they should or really are desiring to move into?
So sometimes it can be a bit of all of those three things you mentioned, right? Some people know that they shouldn't, for example, be in banking. They find it boring, they hate it, whatever, and they may be more interested in creative work, or in non-for-profit work. So they already have a clue that they want to transition to a different industry. And so with those people, it really is about looking at their experience. We dig into their experience, the things that they've overcome, the things that they've achieved and their natural skills. And we frame up their resumes and their LinkedIn so that they can easily use their transferable skills. Because when you're going into a new industry, the transferable skills becomes the highlight, or should be the highlight of your resume. You need to be able to tell a new employer or a new industry what you have that's necessary or useful in this new industry. And so we tend to focus on the soft skills, the skills like leadership skills, problem solving skills, active listening skills, team building skills. They become very important, and those are the skills you highlight on the resume. And if you have some job specific skills to support that new industry, for example, if you're someone who's gone and done a training certificate in data analytics because you've decided you want to move from banking and you want to go and do AI and data analytics, you highlight that, but that isn't the main focus. Because in this current market, and this is across the world, because I work with people across the world, people are hiring for emotional intelligence skills, EQ skills, they call it, which is all those transferable skills, some of what that I just mentioned. And they're not so focused on job-specific skills, because most hiring people know that you can be trained. For example, if you've got great leadership skills, great team building skills, they would rather spend money training you in a specific, say, if you need AI training, they will fund that and get you upskilled there. What is more difficult to train people in is the EQ skills. And so they have become very important for most companies in the world. And so I would teach people how to focus on that. If there's women coming who don't know where to start, then I do similar. I have this process called Mining Your Story, and it's a free resource on my website as well, where we go into a couple of areas of people's life. One is, what is your natural talent? What do people come to you for advice for? We start to dig there. Then we look at, what have you overcome? Because whatever you've overcome, whether it is a personal thing or a professional thing, you've used a set of skills to overcome something. Nobody overcomes anything by just sitting back and doing nothing. There's a set of skills that they engage, whether it's courage, whether it's taking the next step, whether it's going to find help in an area that they might be challenged in. So we zone in on that and we start pulling out the highlights of that. And then I always look at people's achievements. What have you achieved in life, both personally and professionally? Because a lot of people also zone in on the professional achievements. And then sometimes, they come up short, or they think they come up short, but they never consider their personal life. The thing is, if you've done certain things, you could be someone who's run community programs on a voluntary basis. There's a whole bunch of skills in that. And so I help people dig really deep. That's why I call it mining your story, because what we're doing is we're looking for the gold nuggets of that person's story across both their personal and professional life. And then we highlight and frame it up. Now, a lot of people do struggle with the words. And so that's why people do come to me, because I have a love of words. Everyone loves something different. My thing is words. I'm a wordsmith. I write poetry, I write short stories. Words are my jam, And so when you love something, I tend to zone in. I did zone in on it from a young age. And so I'm very good with words. And that's what I say to people, go to get the help from people to know how to do it. Because I would never try to figure out maths and money and dollars and things, because my brain is not comfortable computing numbers. But if you give me words, I can manipulate them, tell a story from them, right? And so I always encourage people to go find the help where you can get it. So if you're wanting to change careers, I would say any changes you want to make in the space of career, invest money in either someone who's really good with words and can frame up your story so that it's saleable to a hiring person, or someone who's really good at the interview coaching side of things as well. Because you know what? You can have the best documents, you can have the best LinkedIn, best cover letter, best resume, and you can land the interview. But if you don't perform in that interview, that is where you hit the roadblock. That's where you're going to hit someone saying, no, you're not right for our company, or they are not going to offer you the job. So I specialize in two things: the wordsmithing of documents for career and interview coaching. And I love it. I love what I do. I have a good hit rate, I'm proud to say. But a lot of the people who come land the job, once we've worked together. But I also was a hiring manager, where I worked in corporate for those years. When I was in corporate, which was 23 years, I hired for some of the biggest projects here in Australia. And so I come with, the hiring person's hat as well. I know what hiring people are looking for, and I tend to zone in on that, kind of create the language, everything around what I know they look for. And so, yeah.
Okay. Since making this transition and doing this, obviously you're passionate about it. What's your favorite thing? Where does that passion come from out of everything that you're doing?
So the words probably I would say, is the biggest passion, because I was doing words when I was growing up in South Africa. I didn't understand that environment a lot of the time, and it was a very difficult environment. And one of the ways I processed that was words. I would write little short stories. I was always journaling, would write poetry. Some of my poetry is quite dark and angry from the teenage years, when you become a rebellious teenager and you want to know, how does life work? So words for me has always mattered. And I developed a skill. I've done a lot of training in using words, copywriting, all of those things. So the word side of me, telling stories, but telling people stories in a way that represents all that they have to offer. I really believe that and I know from hiring, and I know from other hiring people I've worked with and collaborated with, people don't like professional robots. So they want a human side to the story. And many people forget that when they present their documents. They forget the human side. Sometimes they even speak in a language that is not their language, and this is where they often get caught out. They go to AI, they get this great resume written, they get the interview, they turn up, and the moment they open their mouth, the hiring person knows there's a disparity between the way they communicate and the way that the resume was communicated. So I always say, use the words, but speak in your language. Speak in your language. So get someone to help you sell you as you, not you as an AI presented type of person, So words for me is the best part of what I do. But I do love the interview coaching as well. And the reason I love that is because I can see in real time how someone transforms. Like when someone comes to me for the first session we practice, I can see them stumbling. I can see them often speaking too long. Someone asks a question and they're talking for 3, 4, 5 minutes. That's too long. When you're interviewing, you need to be aware of the busy person's time, right? The interviewer, the hiring person, is a busy person. They're going to be interviewing a number of people for a couple of roles. And so you as a candidate need to show awareness. So you need to be very succinct and very compelling in the way you communicate. Short and sharp is what I say, without leaving out important information. And so I train people how to do that. And so with the first session, often I see how they're struggling, and I tend to just listen, and then I give them feedback, record it all so that they can go back and look at the video. By the time we go to the second session, they're getting a feel for how they need to communicate. And most of the time, currently my hit rate is usually by the third session, they're ready. They're confident. Some people will come back because they're still stumbling a bit and they need, another 1 or 2 sessions, but usually it's a 3-session package and we nail it in those 3 sessions. So they're ready. And many of them are astounded that they suddenly, starting to get job offers and things, because the interview matters. You have to sell yourself, and I don't get to go with you into the interview. So we have to train you to speak succinctly and to deliver your key points that's going to make you appealing to that hiring person.
Okay. So since you moved from corporate and everything that you were doing to being an entrepreneur, what are some of the hard-won lessons that you've kind of discovered that if you can go back, you would kind of warn yourself about, or maybe if somebody else is starting an entrepreneur journey, that you would advise them to kind of look out for?
So one of the things I always say to people is whatever journey you're beginning, whether you're transitioning careers or you're going to go into entrepreneurship, make sure that you've backed yourself with enough finances to start off with. And so that wasn't something I needed to go back and warn myself about, because I knew what I wanted to do. I started to realize at the beginning of menopause that I wanted to transition. So what I did was I had great contracts. It probably took me 2 or 2.5 years to transition out of corporate into my business, but I was saving money all the time. I knew the goal was there, and I know I was so glad that I did that, because I've spoken to many entrepreneurs. I belong to a bunch of entrepreneur groups. And one of the things I have seen happen is that people pursue this passion they're passionate about, they go with, but they haven't put enough savings aside, or they don't realize that the entrepreneurial journey can sometimes be a slow one, and that it requires consistency. You need to keep going for it every day. And sometimes there isn't going to be, a flood of income in the initial stages, right? In the first 3 months, 6 months, you might find that sometimes you have abundant months, money's flowing through, the clients are coming through, and then other times you have very lean months. And so you need to be prepared for that. I don't encourage anybody to walk out of anything that's bringing in income until they've grounded themselves and until they've tested the waters a little bit, right? Because the worst thing, and this goes for job hunting as well, the worst thing you can do to negotiate a great contract or a great employment agreement is to be doing it when you are not employed, because you'll end up settling for anything. You'll get to a point where you'll go, my God, I need to pay the bills. The kids' school fees are due, all of this kind of thing. And then you end up settling for a role. And I've seen it happen. People end up settling for the very role that they ended up leaving. Right. And then you're just miserable again within a year, within 2 years, you're miserable and you're going, what am I doing with my life? I wanted to do this. I wanted to change and make a difference there. So back yourself financially is what I say to people. Make sure that you've got, if you can, at least a year, 12 to 18 months worth of money, because you may not need it all of the time. As I said, when the abundant months are coming through, that's great. You're going to keep making the money and it's going to keep growing. But when they come through, you need to have some money set aside to be able to get through that. Because if you're doing your marketing, anything, if you're doing your podcasting, all of these things cost money. Yes, you can do it on certain systems and platforms for a reduced price, but you're still going to be putting out money. All of us have to put out money to grow money, right? That's just what I've seen. It's just the reality of it, But if you get to do what you love doing and you persevere, then it's nothing but gold after that.
So you've kind of already answered this because you alluded to who you talk to, but what is the avatar of your average client, or what are the main pain points somebody's going through that if they're dealing with X, Y, or Z, you're the person that they should be talking to?
So midlife, yep, that is one quality of my avatar. Midlife, they've come to a point where they're dissatisfied with a career. Sometimes at midlife, someone has been in the same type of role for a long time, and they're not necessarily looking for a different career, but they're looking for a promotion, but they've been overlooked and overlooked and overlooked. Often when someone's overlooked, there's often an inability to really sell themselves, or they haven't taken notes of their achievements, and they haven't provided the evidence to the bosses or the people that's making the decision that they are in fact the right person. Because we don't get what we want unless we sell ourselves into what we want. And so I know people hate that, and sales is an awful thing for a lot of people, and they get really uncomfortable. But we all do sales to some level. We have to sell ourselves on something. You doing your podcast, there's a level of sales involved in that. Me doing my career coaching, a level of sales involved in that. Same with career, right? So for people struggling with things, often the midlife person is either stressed, so they come to me because they need another voice, someone to see their life differently. Because the other thing is we do struggle with our own successes a lot of the time. We don't know how to sell it. A lot, especially women. Women suffer from imposter syndrome more than men, I believe. And I've worked with both men and women, and mostly now zoning into the women. But I've worked with that. I've seen men make decisions quicker. Once you point out a few things to them that they can use that will sell into a company, they're usually ready to go. They take on that quite easily. But I see women struggle with that. So the imposter syndrome. So that's probably one of my ideal clients, the women who are struggling with that. And then, sometimes it's just a case of having someone to sound off. Often at this stage of life where a woman's going through all those changes in her body, she's exhausted, doesn't know where to start, confused, knows in the spirit something feels off, but doesn't know how to identify it. So yeah, that covers most of the type of people that come to me, those who are confused, those who are exhausted, or those who want to make the change but don't know where to start.
Okay. What about power partners? What are other industries or other professionals that you synergize well with, or you find a lot of potential collaborations working with?
So I work well with recruiters and hiring managers. So I still have bosses that I used to work for when I was in corporate. I suppose because they saw the way I grew my career, they also saw me helping people. So when I was leading projects, I was hiring for projects, but I always made it my business to help the people who reported to me, to help them grow in their career. So I would help them identify the training that they needed to go to the next level. Or if they simply needed coaching in how to speak up in meetings, because you often get the person who has got a lot of talent, who has a vision for a way a project can be delivered, but they're shy. And so they don't speak up. So those were some of the things I used to do. And so a lot of even my ex-bosses, they'll still get in touch with me to help them hire the right people, you know? So I work with mostly hiring people, mostly recruiters as well. Recruiters will sometimes, if they get resumes that aren't well written, they'll send their people to me and say, you need to go to her. She knows how to present a resume. Because recruiters now don't have the time to do that. Back in my day, 20 something years ago, you know, the recruiters had the time. They would help you write your resumes, and then it goes forward into the company that they're presenting you to. But there's too many candidates now. And so the recruiters don't have the time. So they'll find specific resume writers or career coaches that they might work with. So that's kind of where I've built a lot of my connection, you know. And then other businesses, I do business copywriting, so I work with businesses as well. And sometimes I might see an opportunity in there while I'm copywriting, you know, you might need this, you might need that. And then, you know, I can try and help them find those resources. So various, you know, it depends on the needs, you know, but I'm open to working with anybody, you know.
Okay.
And now starting to work with organizations that are starting to speak about menopause and trying to champion support in the workplace. So I'm starting to get into that now and doing some workshops, and I wrote this book called Internal Uprising, and I've had quite a number of workshops and discussions with women around that. So that's a starting place for some women.
Okay. And these next questions, I know we could probably spend like an hour on each individual one, but just kind of at a high level, how can a midlife woman break free from career limitations and pursue their dream jobs?
Well, the first step for me, and I always start at the first step, I say get the foundations right. And getting the foundations right is to do something like the mining your story that I spoke about. Dig into your own story to go and find out the achievements, the value you have, the natural skills you have. That's the first place to start. And the second place to start is to identify your ideal companies, right? Or your ideal industries, either companies or industries, and then start to do the matchup. These are the skills I have. I've now identified and gone through that. And these are the types of companies I want to work in. Have a look at their job descriptions, because if you see advertisements on job portals, they'll always have what they need. And you are going to have at least some of those skills, especially if you're focusing on the transferable skills and the emotional intelligence skills. You're going to have some of that. That's the starting place. And what I found is that it's interesting when people start to really dig into their story and really own their story, they actually become quite empowered. Sometimes people struggle because they don't own their own story. They don't own their own talents. They don't own their own achievements. They sort of brush it off, you know, and especially women. You know, if someone pays us a compliment, we're always brushing it off. I don't know if you've noticed that. I've noticed that, you know, especially at midlife when we're struggling with ourselves and we hate what our bodies are doing and all that, we struggle, and so we brush it off. But you need to own your story, because that in itself empowers you, and that in itself gives you that element of confidence, and people can hear and see and feel confidence, and they want to hire that, right?
Absolutely. What's a top tip for confidently acing interviews and standing out to hiring managers?
Preparation. And I tell you, so many people try to avoid preparation. It's like everything, you know, they always say, if you prepared, when you prepare for something, then it's kind of, there's this old saying, you know, people call it luck, but luck is when preparation meets opportunity. That's when things change for people. And so I do see people try to skim over interview preparation, but I tell you, if you do take the time and the effort to prepare, and you can do that, probably your best bet is someone who's skilled in it, so a career coach. But I also say to people, if you can't at that moment in time do a career coach, then find someone, find a colleague, or see if you can speak with a boss or a senior manager, maybe not someone that's going to hire you, but that you can practice with. Because a lot of people, they sometimes practice with a partner or a friend, but that partner or friend doesn't pick up where you miss things. And also I've seen people, we want to keep encouraging our persons that we love. And so we don't always tell them the truth. We don't always say, you know what, you spoke for 5 minutes on that answer. Seriously, you need to bring the answer back. You need to do it in 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes. So do it with someone. If you're going to do your prep, do it with someone who can give you really honest but positive feedback, right? And help you get better and better. Preparation is the most important thing in the interview process, in my opinion.
Okay. How can midlife women, negotiate the salary they deserve and create their ideal lifestyle?
So I encourage people so apart from writing your resume and your LinkedIn, when you get to a negotiation stage, and I actually do have a workshop on negotiation, I help people do a presentation, and it might be a 5-slide PowerPoint presentation or maybe 8 slides, no more than that. And we pick out where they're the strongest, right? So if you, for example, are going for a promotion, that's going to involve a level of negotiation. Or if you're going, say you've been in a role for 18 months or 2 years and you think, you know what, I want a promotion, or I want the opportunity to go up the ladder a bit and I want to earn more money. No one's going to give you that without you being able to present the evidence that you deserve that. And so one of the things I say to my women is start to track all your achievements. Track it, because people don't track it. And then when it comes time for them to sell themselves, they often have forgotten some of the great work that they've done. And let's be honest, menopausal women, we do forget things because our brains get foggy. So start tracking the achievements, and then do a presentation of your achievements, marrying it up to whatever's required in that role. Present the evidence. But the other thing is you need to deliver. So if you're someone that's you have a plan in your mind, like in a year's time, I want to go for this next role, I want to go for this next salary, I want to, get $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more. Start to build the evidence that's going to have someone go, yes, you deserve that. Because if you don't present anything that's saleable to them, that shows them that you are ready for that next step, that you deserve that next step, you're not going to get the yes. We have to ask for something, but we also have to give something. And it's about delivering. When I negotiated for all the things I negotiated, and I went rapidly through my career growth, I always had the evidence there. So I worked really hard. And if someone gave me an opportunity, I was like, okay, the first 3 months of this opportunity, I'm going to give it my all. So I'm going to build my evidence. And sometimes I didn't need my evidence till 3 years later, 4 years later, 5 years later. But throughout that time, I was building the evidence of how I was achieving, how I was contributing, what I was making better. Aim to make things better and capture the evidence of you making things better, whether you're building a better team, whether you end up writing out better processes for delivering something in whatever job you're doing. Build the evidence, because then you are in a better position to negotiate.
Okay. Is there anything I missed or failed to ask that you wanted to add?
No, I think the only thing I would say is I mentioned the book for women. If women are watching this is probably a place to start. I have bundled up something for women. So it's not just this book, it's an audio version of it, because some people don't like to read. But then I have a book out there called Beyond the Cubicle, and it's specific strategies for how to start presenting your resume and your LinkedIn and presenting yourself as a candidate if you're looking to make career transitions, right? I would say start small. When we're trying to make changes, especially changes in our career, it can be very overwhelming. And if you try and take on all the steps at once, you're going to overwhelm yourself. And I've never seen people actually then go on to be successful when they're in that overwhelm mode. So don't put yourself in that position. And the best way to not put yourself in the position is to do small steps consistently. Take action consistently, but it doesn't have to be huge action steps. little ones. So if you start just, this week, I'm going to dig into all my natural talents. What do people come to me for advice for? Next week, I'm going to look at all the things I've overcome in my personal and professional life and what specific skills did I engage to overcome? Maybe the next week. Okay. And so go slowly at it, right? Because when you build a strong foundation and you build it in that slow, consistent way, it sticks. When you try and take big leaps, overwhelm sets in and it doesn't actually stick. And I've never seen it work. And I've been coaching for 21 years.
Yeah, there's a lot to this, and there's a lot of different areas that we can go down and really dig deep into. For the people
Yeah.
that want to do that, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
So my website, happycareerhub.com, is probably the best place to find me. But if you want to see how I teach and train people and share information, then LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Wendy Alexander is my LinkedIn handle. And then I will send Anthony the link to the bundled package for that book and a few other supporting things for women to start off with.
Perfect. And yeah, and that's all going to go in the show notes, so you guys don't have to hunt for it. I'm going to make it as easy as possible. Just click on it. If anybody would like to get in touch with Wendy, absolutely do. Do yourself a favor if you're in that position that you want to make a change. Things are happening and you want to make more money. You want to land that job. Have that conversation. You might just
Yes.
end off in a better spot, right? So
Yeah.
feel free to reach out to Wendy. Other than that, you can find me and visit me at ikag.me. You can find more episodes, subscribe to our newsletter, and connect with our growing community of awesome people like Wendy. If you or somebody you know would like to be interviewed, you can also apply on the website. But Wendy, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate everything
Absolute
that you're
pleasure.
doing. You're out there, with a servant's heart helping people, and that's awesome to see. So let's all go out there. Let's have an awesome day and grow our circles. All right.
Absolutely.